This is soil. Whoa! Yes. The world's most underrated superhero. Look, it's a bit brown. I know some of you think it's a bit dull, a bit boring. Like it doesn't move, it doesn't give you visceral pleasure, like a waterfall or a sunset. You can't tell if it's doing well or if it's suffering. It doesn't scream out in pain. But this stuff, I'm on a mission to get everyone to reimagine soil. Because this is an ecosystem. What I hold in my hands is actually an ecosystem, a living, breathing superorganism. I actually hold in my hand right now 10,000 different species of bacteria. They're supposed to be there in healthy soil. They do for plants what our microbiome does for us. They help plants get food in a digestible form. And when I say living, 10,000 species, great. Huh? Actually, in 1 teaspoon of this, in the amount that I could fit into the end of my thumb, there are more living things than there are humans on the planet. Up to 10 billion living things in a teaspoon of healthy soil. And this does everything for us. Humanity only exists because of this stuff and the fact it occasionally rains. And so for me, I got curious about soil and I thought, well, how should I think of soil? And I think about the life within. So there's the bacteria, single-celled organisms. There's other single-celled organisms, archaea. There are protists. There are algae. You might know algae as seaweed, but there are microscopic algae actually live in soil, and they're supposed to be there. That's part of the ecosystem. There's fungi in soil. There's about 5 million species of fungi in the world. The vast, vast majority live in soil. Now, you might think of fungi as mushrooms, but actually most fungi exist in soil as hyphae, these fine fungal threads, these filaments that crisscross the earth in 3 dimensions. And they're doing all sorts of things. They're helping to bind soil together. They're actually helping plants to access nutrients away from their roots, but also to dissolve rock minerals and things like that and pass them back to the plants. They're actually helping plants to communicate those fungal threads, these hyphae. It sounds fantastical, but it's true. There can be kilometres worth of fungal hyphae in the amount of soil that would fit in the end of my thumb in a teaspoon. There are other things in soil, not just the fungi and the bacteria and the archaea and the protists. There's nematodes. Nematodes. I had never even heard of a nematode 10 years ago. I now know that 4 out of every 5 animals on the planet is a nematode. They're actually the most abundant multicellular organism on Earth. 90% of them live in soil, and they're essential for soil life and for soil health. What nematodes do is, like all soil life, it makes nutrients available in a plant digestible form, because plants don't eat dirt. They need things that are locked in soil, and they get it through the life within. And nematodes, there are so many of them. For each one of us, there's 60 billion of them. If you made a line, if you linked them all together and made a line of nematodes, that line of nematodes would stretch out through the edge of the atmosphere, out past the moon, out past the sun, out past the edge of the solar system. If you made a conga line of all the nematodes on Earth, that line would stretch from here to Alpha Centauri, our nearest solar neighbour, 4 light years away. All the way there and back again. That's how many nematodes there are, but also how small they are. And they're vital for soil health. So they're the invisible things. Nematodes are like microscopic worm-like things, most of them microscopic. There's other things that you can see. Worms, you might have heard of those. There's other things, you might have heard of springtails, pauropods, mites. These are arthropods. These are on the cusp of being seen. You can look them up on the internet. There's a beautiful photography of them, barely visible by the naked eye. Now, there's lots of them too, so it's not just single-celled organisms. There's so many that we now know that under a single footfall in a forest, there can be 16,000 of these insect-like creatures supported on 120,000 jointed legs. I mean, they have legs, they're big enough to have legs. These are just some of the things we know about soil. But we also know that soil gets damaged by our actions, by the way we grow food in particular, so when we cut open the ground, when we plough it, the chemicals we use, but also by the cities we build, the way we transport ourselves. Soil is getting damaged. And soil matters. As a farmer, as a chef, soil, I'm interested in how we can feed the world, because 98 to 99% of all the calories we eat come from the fact we have topsoil, right? So when I say the difference between us existing and not existing, and that and the fact it rains, that's true. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. So that's where food comes from, but we're losing topsoil because of human actions. We're losing topsoil at crazy rates. We lose up to 9 kilograms of topsoil for every breakfast, for every lunch, for every dinner for every human on the planet. Think of that tomorrow when you have your breakfast cereal. A bucket, 9 kilograms of topsoil washed or blown away. So soil's imperiled. So this bothers me because I'm going, well, hang on, I'm a grower of food, I'm a chef, I'm worried about how humans are going to eat into the future. And don't worry about the knife. I'm not getting rid of one of the 8 billion. I want to do a little demonstration because I'm interested in how much of the planet can we grow food on? Like really, seriously. If we're losing 9 kilograms, per meal, that's a lot. So I'm going to use this apple as a demonstration. So the apple represents the globe. How much of the globe can we grow our crops on? So our fruit, our vegetables, our grains, our nuts, our pulses. We call it arable land in farming terms. So I'm going to have to cut away some of that because that's ocean, and so is that. So about a quarter of the earth is land. So that potentially could have topsoil on it. Okay? The oceans, as we know, provide 1 or 2% of our calories, so they're not going to feed humanity. This is this bit. Oh, but hang on. Some of that is too hot, too dry, too cold, too wet, too alpine to grow food. Get rid of that bit too. So now we're down to this bit. This is 1/8 of the planet. So this is where humans could potentially live. This is the bit that has topsoil. Now, with topsoil, when you dig into the ground and you dig down, it's the dark bit on the top. That's the bit that does all of the world's growing. That's the magic bit. Okay, it averages around the world. In parts of Australia, it's 1 centimetre. Sometimes it's 10 centimetres thick. Okay, so this has topsoil, but not all of it can we grow food on. There are reserves, national parks, wild places. They're really important to keep the biodiversity and keep the ecosystems that support us. There are cities. If you took all the urban areas and roads and mines and infrastructure that humans have built, you'd end up with the 7th largest country on the planet. We can't farm that. So I'm going to cut away those bits. There's also 40% of the land we once farmed, we've abandoned. So I'm going to have to get rid of a bit more of the apple, actually probably about that much. So then I'm left with this bit. This is where we can produce our food. But not all topsoil and not all geography is the same. So we have areas, our cropping land, our arable land, where we can grow our fruit, our grains, our vegetables, our nuts, our pulses. And we have grasslands, rangelands, pasture. The grasslands are sometimes called rangelands and pasture. So on rangelands and pasture, we can produce human food, but we can't digest grass. Humanity can't digest grass, but we can feed it to animals. Cows, sheep and goats, good examples. We can get milk and meat from them, but that's not going to give humanity the balanced diet, and it's not going to be able to produce enough food. So I'm going to cut those bits away as well, important as they are for humans. So what we're left with is this. It's 1/32 of the apple. It's actually less than that of planet Earth that grows our crops. And this bit, small as it is, isn't actually getting any bigger, 9 kilograms for every meal. What that translates into, in Australia, we've lost half our topsoil on our farming land since white colonisation in 200 years. That's the magic bit. We're going to lose the next half on much of our farmland in the next 40 to 50 years. It varies with the place. Some places we're losing more than others. Some places maybe even growing a little bit, but that's the average. Globally, to put this in a global context, we abandon 1 soccer field's worth of usable land every 5 seconds due to topsoil loss. We lost another football field while I was saying that. So we're not just losing, this seems small, we're not just losing land by the minute, we're losing it by the second. And this freaks me out because I'm a grower, I'm a farmer. How are we going to feed the world? But more than that, we now know so much more about soil than we did even 20 years ago, what it does for us. Yes, it grows 98% of our calories, but it also does other things. Soil acts like the world's kidneys. It actually filters the water, giving us clean water to drink and providing clean water for the ecosystems that support us. Soil helps in the climate. We like to think of trees as a carbon sink, right? You know, you get on a flight, pay some money, someone plants a tree, supposedly somewhere, for you to be able to offset your fossil fuel emissions, right? Great. Trees matter, but soil matters more because soil holds up to 6 times more carbon than all the plants and all the animals on Earth put together. It's soil doing the heavy lifting. So care about trees, but you've got to care about soil at the same time. And more carbon in soil is a really good thing. More carbon in the atmosphere, we believe, is bad. More carbon dioxide in the ocean lowers the pH, is terrible for sea life. More carbon in soil is home for the underground ecosystem. It gives soil structure, it's food for the underground ecosystem. It allows water to be stored better in soil, and it allows water to infiltrate better, so better in droughts, better in floods. We can store way more carbon in soil, we know that. So soil helps in the climate. Soil also helps in medicine. Over half the antibiotics that we currently use in human medicine had their genesis in soil. We know the next generation of antibiotics lies beneath our feet, but we just haven't found them yet. We actually haven't been curious enough about soil. Soil helps with health more personally too. One of the single best ways to inoculate the immune system of a newborn child is to expose them to biologically rich, active, living soil in the first few months of life. We know this. We also know that effect diminishes as we get older, but it never goes away. So anytime you have access to the outdoors, particularly to get your hands in soil, to garden, but anytime you can be exposed to nature, it's going to build your immunity. So soil helps with physical health, but it also helps with mental health. There's a bacterium called Mycobacterium vaccae. Now, at the start, I held 10,000 species in my hand. Vaccae is one of the 10,000. Vaccae is a miracle bacterium because it actually releases happy hormones in our brains. When we eat it, and we are always eating soil bacteria, and you might think it sounds bad, but that's how we're designed. Most soil bacteria are benign and a lot of them are beneficial. Vaccae is beneficial. So when we eat an organically grown spinach leaf, say, or when we walk in a garden or work in a garden, we inhale it because it becomes airborne. Vaccae releases norepinephrine and serotonin in our brains. Anti-stress, antidepressant chemicals. They make us feel better about the world, better about life. Science shows this. We probably all know it because we've never met a grumpy gardener. Vaccae isn't airy-fairy stuff. Vaccae is so powerful, they're testing it as a treatment for PTSD. We know it can treat tuberculosis, it can treat certain types of lung cancer, allergic asthma, colitis, the list goes on. Vaccae is one of the things we know about soil. 98% of what lives in soil is unknown to science. So we know there's something there, but we don't know what it is, and we certainly don't know what it does. And this drives me balmy, because I read the headlines, I'm not an idiot. I see that we want to put a colony on Mars. You know, we want to put another human on the moon. We're spending so much time, money, and effort in looking up to space. And here on Earth, on the only home that we have ever known, we are busy turning into a moonscape. So it bothers me that we don't care enough about soil. I'm going to tell you something that we do know about soil. And this might help frame it for you, it helped frame it for me. There's a chemical called ergothioneine that is made in soil. Now, plants and soil co-evolved. 500 million years of co-evolution. Plants and soil are supposed to be together. We were born into that world, so we're supposed to be around those plants and around that living soil. So soil doesn't exist on Mars or the moon, no matter what the headlines say. So ergothioneine, it's made in living soil, predominantly by soil fungi, but also by soil bacteria. Ergothioneine, there's 100,000 different chemicals that are passed between living plants and living soil, the life in soil. Over 100,000. One of the things that's passed from soil life into plants, ergothioneine. Ergothioneine gets into the plant unchanged. A lot of chemicals get changed when they're passed between species, not ergothioneine. So ergothioneine gets into the plant unchanged. If we eat that plant, and oats are a really good example because they've researched oats quite well. If we eat a bowl of porridge, ergothioneine passes into our gut and through the lining of our gut into our bloodstream, unchanged. Ergothioneine can then pass this protective membrane called the blood-brain barrier. That's designed to protect our brains from pathogens and harmful chemicals. Ergothioneine, no problem, straight through. Now, ergothioneine is an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. When it gets into our brains, it exerts anti-aging and anti-dementia effects. Something born in soil has a direct and measurable impact on brain health. So we know this. One of the few things we know. But we also know if you ploughed the land that grew those oats, if you cut through those long fungal hyphae, you reduce the amount of ergothioneine that is produced, the amount that gets into the oats, and the amount that gets into us. Inadvertently, the way we grow food has impacted brain health. What we do to soil, we do to ourselves. So I get it. Soil isn't sexy to some of you. Don't understand it, but I get it. You know, I don't see crowds rallying to its protection, but look, we care about our rainforests. You know, we'll fight for our Great Reefs, but you know, like a single shovelful of soil, of healthy soil, is more biodiverse than the entire Amazon rainforest. You have to use your imagination to know that, but it is true. It's no less true for being microscopic. And so soil life matters. It matters in ways that we're just beginning to understand. That's the thing. I care about forests. I care about rainforests. I really do. You know, but you can't have one without the other. You know, they co-evolve. You need living, to have living plants and forests, you need living soil. And the problem is that soil's image is tarnished, its champions are too often ignored, and soil's fate actually hangs in the balance. The good news is, I thought I'd better give you some good news. We're actually learning from our mistakes. We actually know how to build topsoil, right? We have the tools, intellectual and physical, to repair the damage that we've done, to do it in a time frame that nature could never achieve. There are tens of thousands of farmers around the world, and they're scaling up what home gardeners have known forever, that we can rebuild soil, we can regenerate earth. But they can't do it fast enough, and they certainly can't do it when the rest of us are treating soil like dirt. If we want to feed 10 billion people by mid-century, if we want to draw down carbon, if we want to grow nutrient-dense food and still maintain biodiversity, we have to look at the world differently. Without topsoil, it's not just no food, there's no us, but there's no land-based life as we know it. Without topsoil, we're doomed. We need to re-envisage the ground beneath our toes. We need to cherish this thin layer of earth that gives us life and take topsoil from being something that just lies beneath our feet and put it where it belongs, firmly and permanently at the top of our minds.